For this section, we're going to be creating the piston cover rest for our assembly. This is what houses the piston head connecting rod and connects to the wrist pin and then is held in by the end knobs. Just like all of our previous ones, we're going to start off by choosing our plane, starting a sketch, and going with our first face. This is the very base of the piston cover rest. You can see how I'm multiplying everything by 2. That is because the values that we were given in the engineering diagram were of the radius and not the diameter. If you are unsure how to use the multiplication tool in CAD, it's the pound symbol or shift at 8. This line is what's going to help create an opening for us to see into the piston cover rest so that it's not just a functioning assembly, but also a visually appealing assembly. You can see how we don't have a nice smooth top. That is for a very important reason. If we were to keep the top of our piston cover rest smooth, then it would collide with the crankshaft at some points. So, by creating this awkward design, we solve that issue. You can see here how those lines I made earlier that separated the piston cover's edge helped make this a bit easier, as rather than needing to get rid of stuff, we can just make a small extrusion. This is the main shape of our piston cover rest done. Now, we're just going to be moving on to cutting through some holes. We're going to start off by doing this side. This is where the wrist pass goes through and what helps keep the piston head in line when moving up and down. It is important to note that this measurement over here cannot be too long, for if it is, then the piston head will not sit in comfortably. And although it may not look right to see that this hole is not going in the center of the face, it's going in the center of the model, as that face would be treated as being there, even though it's not when taking these measurements. You can see here I struggled to get a horizontal parallel line across. However, I just decided to do this the harder way. You can do this much easier by getting a line and just moving it across a horizontal to help you line it up. Now that we have the base of our shape done, all we gotta do is move it down into position and then copy the same thing on the top. What you just saw right there was the first thing that I forgot to do. I forgot to set diameters for their width apart, which made it so that when I increased their line length, it made the gap bigger. But now that I have that 7.68 millimeters on the bottom, they are not allowed to move. Now we have our base shape, but it is too high up on the location of the cover rest. So now we're going to move it to our accurate position. This is now right where we want it. Now we select the face, and we are going to remove using the remove tool in the extrusion to help make our hole. And there we are. There's one of the main holes completed. Now going back into the assembly, we are going to be creating this cavity that you see. Taking this part out will allow our model to function properly in assembly. We're going to be first getting the measurements of each edge, and we're going to be doing them with straight edges rather than fillet, as it keeps it simpler and ensures that we keep enough space. So now we're going to be creating a sketch on the right plane this time, rather than any other face or top plane. We are going to have to create a line that is equal to the same height as our cover res to ensure that everything else is in the right location and we don't leave excess remaining. You can see I divided it by 2 there. That's just because that was the full angle from the measurement was of the full length rather than just half, which is not what we wanted there. And now we will be getting the vertical height, and after this, we will be in the final part of our model. Now we just create this vertical line, or this horizontal line, sorry, the length that we want, connect it, and this is all we need for this sketch. We can delete all of the excess lines if we want to, but we just need the face of that shape. So now we extrude it out, once again select remove, and move it in symmetrical as far as we can to ensure that we get rid of both sides. And you'll see we'll get that shape that we want. And there we have it. That is the piston cover rest for our assembly.